those looking to hit it big in Bitcoin.
Bitcoin, the digital currency created a dozen years ago as an alternative to cash, is exploding in value. Will it last?
I do think people get bought into these manias who may not have as much money to spare. So I'm not bullish on Bitcoin. And, my general thought would be that, if you have less money than Elon, you should probably watch out.
So what is Bitcoin, and will it reach new heights of 100,000, 300,000, or maybe even 1,000,000? Or will it just crash? Well, we're going to be going over that, plus if it's going to be regulated, taxed, or if it's going to be the world reserve currency status. So if you're unfamiliar with what Bitcoin is, it was created by an anonymous group or individual under the name of Satoshi Nakamoto. Bitcoin was then released in 2009, but then the source code was handed off to a man named Gavin Anderson, which I thought was kind of suspicious and weird. But okay, whatever. So Bitcoin is a peer-to-peer network which uses a collection of computers to mine codes or nodes, which then stores that information into what's called blockchain, and in each block is a number of transactions. So as you can see in this chart, the more miners or nodes in the system, the more safer the blockchain or Bitcoin as a whole is. Except for the fact of, EMP strikes or someone hacking your codes or losing your codes just in general, whatever. So one great advantage of Bitcoin versus like something like gold is there is actually a cap of 21 million Bitcoin. And the last Bitcoin that is supposed to be mined in circulation will be in 2140. And also to point out, there are fractions of Bitcoin which are called Satoshis, and there are 100 million Satoshis to one Bitcoin. Now, since Bitcoin is decentralized, meaning there's no central power, it has become very popular for a way of transacting and making it a currency. Now many people are seeing Bitcoin as a store of value similar to gold or some other kind of asset. Many people like Elon Musk or top investors or some banks are more so seeing it as a speculation. So it's getting misstrued into this false sense of security as some people pile into Bitcoin as it's going to go to the moon or something like that, which is not really the case because it's not ready for that at all because of the volatility it has. And if it is to be a currency, it's going to compete with the US dollar and many other currencies around the world. So that's going to become a problem, and that's going to lead to regulation, taxes, and more issues down the road. And Bitcoin may see a crash because of that. So since Bitcoin is a speculative asset, it's only good when the people have faith in it. So if people don't have faith in it, obviously Bitcoin price is going to fall. People are going to get scared, afraid of losing their money, and they're going to back out. And if people get greedy and think it's going to go to 1 million, people are going to have more faith in it, and it's going to raise the Bitcoin price. The problem with that is if that's to go to a currency, that's going to be extremely volatile, and it's not going to be stable to become a currency. So Bitcoin may fail because of this, and the price of Bitcoin may crash. So Bitcoin is very volatile compared to other currencies around the world, such as the US dollar, which is around 0.5% to 1% average volatility rate. And gold is somewhere around 1.2% volatility rate. Bitcoin is around 5.5% on average of volatility in the last 30 days or 60 days. And Bitcoin has seen a volatility rate of upwards of 15%. I don't know about you, but I don't consider that a store of value. I consider Bitcoin a real speculative asset. Will it go to 1 million? Maybe it will, maybe. But if it doesn't, you have to assess that risk. And Bitcoin to me is pretty risky. So since Bitcoin is pushing its way to become a currency instead of a speculative asset, it needs to fight an upward battle to become successful as a currency against the government, the Fed, regulations, taxes, and it needs to fight its volatility problem. If it can do all that, then maybe it will be a world reserve currency, or maybe it will be more used by Americans or even the world. But recently, Janet Yellen just came out and said Bitcoin is an extremely inefficient way of conducting transactions. She has also demonized Bitcoin and said it's being used for illicit finances and financial transactions. And it's pretty ironic that she says that because other currencies around the world are used for illicit finances as well. So that brings us on to the next idea, which is the digital dollar that they're trying to push out. And they don't want Bitcoin to be the world reserve currency. They want digital dollars instead, so central banks can control the financial system. So meanwhile, Janet Yellen is pumping out the Treasury General account of $250 billion per month until it's all gone. And the Fed is still doing their quantitative easing in the system, which is $150 billion a month. And what that does is the TGA, the Treasury General account, with the Treasury of the United States government, what that does is that's going to put money directly into the system. And the Fed's quantitative easing is just to liquidate the banks and make sure they have money on their balance sheets, as simple terms. And it's funny that she would say all this because the US dollar is starting to fail, as with other currencies around the world. That's due to living beyond our means and quantitative easing and all this mumbo jumbo stuff. So Bitcoin will have to compete with the Fed, the US government, Janet Yellen even, and currencies around the world as it moves on to try and replace currencies and centralized banks. And what will happen from this is taxes will come, regulation will come, and Bitcoin will have to find a way through that, even if it does. And if it does get through it, maybe it will be the world reserve currency, maybe. But if it doesn't, Bitcoin will most likely crash, and people lose faith in Bitcoin altogether. So not only that, but Bitcoin has another problem, and that's digital currencies. And they're being issued around the world, including China, the United States, New Zealand, Sweden, and more. And China's even actually testing this as we speak right now in their country and in Africa. So for those saying that Bitcoin will be the world reserve currency, first need to look at these digital dollar systems that are about to be released and the competition they pose to Bitcoin. Because if people use a multitude of different currencies around the world, who's to say they're going to use Bitcoin first, and why would they? They don't need to. So no one carries around, Bitcoin in their wallet or their phone or whatever all the time. They're going to have a bunch of other currencies with them. You could say the same thing about gold, but gold has a history and gold has actual use. Bitcoin does not have a real use or physical use. It's just coding. So it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when digital currency will come out and replace the dollar and replace currencies around the world. And when this happens, and it will happen, Bitcoin may not be able to compete with that, or it just will be used as a store of value similar to gold or something like that. After writing this video and preparing for this video that you're watching now, Jay Powell, or Papa Powell, came out and said that he's making digital currency his not number one priority, but he's making it his highest priority, that they get this digital currency under wraps and get it sent out so they can get it legislated. So Janet Yellen wants to regulate Bitcoin, and this is some evidence of that. She was asked about potential regulation of Bitcoin and said it was important to ensure that cryptocurrency is not used as a vehicle for illicit transactions and that there's protection for investors. See that key word there? Protection for investors. That means regulation. When the government wants to protect you, that means regulation or laws. And she also noted that she worries about potential losses that investors can suffer. In that case, that's volatility and the risk that Bitcoin has, which is true, but that means she wants to regulate it and make sure there's more laws for Bitcoin or more taxes. When I was researching the title of this video, I was looking to see how many people were interested in a Bitcoin crash. And it's interesting to see because As you can see here, there's no market volatility really. And then once you get the market is volatile and you have these velocity of money exchanging hands and people trying to find assets to throw into, you have people worried about a Bitcoin crash because it's in a bubble, right? So Bitcoin is most likely in a bubble because people are obviously worried, and stocks and assets are psychological. So if people fear of losing their money or say their Bitcoins, they're going to pull out and the Bitcoin price is going to crash. So will Bitcoin crash this year? Well, with all my research and understanding of Bitcoin and the psychology of investors, Bitcoin will most likely crash to maybe 20,000 or even lower than that. And the reason for that is because people don't really have faith in Bitcoin as much as they could have if it was a world reserve currency or a currency like USD or any currency like that. And remember, this is not investing advice. This is for entertainment purposes only, so do what you want with your own money. And even though Bitcoin can be used as a currency, it's not really a reliable currency or an established currency system. And as people have faith in it, it will remain a currency as a way of transacting, but it's not an established currency. So it is mostly a speculative asset and should be treated as such. And with speculation, there is risk, and with risk, there is losses. So make sure you do your research and do your understanding of things you invest in, because if you don't, you will lose your off, okay? People are also worried about inflation that's coming, and they're worried about where to put their money because of the velocity of money that's going on and the inflation we're having. So they're just stockpiling it into anything that will earn them income. And you're seeing that with real estate, you're seeing that with stocks, you're seeing that with Bitcoin, and you're not really seeing that with gold. And gold's actually kind of cheap right now. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe. I do videos every Friday about finance, real estate, and anything related to investing. So I post them every Friday around 1 p.m. And I'm Travis Jacobs, helping you be productive in building wealth, and I'll see you on the next video.